How does posthumanism affect how researchers approach the process of research?
I think posthumanism affects the process of how we do research by recasting, by demanding that we reposition our understanding of where the researcher is in relation to the research and what it is that we're researching. So posthumanism does the work of, amongst much else, decentering the human. It's saying we can no longer sustain living and researching with the notion of the human at the center of everything we do. That's a hugely radical move, and I don't think we've begun really to understand quite what that means for research. And I certainly would say that for myself. I don't quite know how that affects how I do my research, because I feel I can't help but place the human in there as at least a central part of the research project. And I'm not sure yet how to do that differently, and I'm not yet sure on the desirability completely of doing that differently. Like, I think, so I think it's just, it's making us rethink, and I'm not, and I certainly for one, I don't feel like I've landed at where we need to get to with it.
Yeah. Well, posthumanism, I think, as context and method, so it is as the context in which we find ourselves. It is a sort of historical moment. And I'm drawn, I believe I got this from Patty Leather, but the idea of post as standing at one's post as opposed to a temporal sense of post as beyond. So if we are standing at our post, we are recognizing and engaging with all the different elements of humanism around us. So posthumanism is not to forget the human or humanity, but to rather understand how liberal humanism impacts the way in which we think and live, and to see if we can intervene in the otherwise sort of easy delivery of humanism that allows us to understand how we're intersecting with different environments, how we're coming out of these different ecologically based elements that help us to generate meaning. And so with posthumanism, we order meaning in particular ways, I think, that hold us accountable to the non-human or the environmental in different ways than we have dealt with in the past.
So in the humanities and the social sciences, posthumanism has been proliferating quite extensively as researchers think about new methodologies. One of the things that we take up in our book, though, and here we draw on other feminist and critical race scholars, is that there's been a tendency that posthumanism has started to attend to all matter as if it's all equal. So we're starting to see what people are calling a flattened ontology. So we have specifically focused on the ways that walking methodologies can become more accountable to both posthumanism, but also informed like intersectionally with critical race theory, queer trans theory, feminist theory, and very specifically because we are white settlers in Canada, we've been using a lot of Indigenous knowledges and Indigenous scholars' work for our book.